So how do you make sense of it all when you have experts on both sides of the fence, the HRT and the non-HRT camp, saying very black and white comments? And also, if you're going into Google, you will find peer-reviewed studies that advocate for both camps. So what do you do if you're stuck in that quandary of wondering whether to take HRT or not? That's what I'm going to be discussing in today's episode. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kate. I share a weekly video with you every single Monday on a topic related to menopause. If you have anything you'd like me to include in a future episode, just drop it in the comments below and I'd be more than happy to add that. So last week I was listening to a podcast by a psychotherapist, and she was interviewing a menopause doctor, a very well-known menopause doctor. She's actually quite a well-known psychotherapist herself. And the doctor said something that completely shocked me. And she said that if you do not take HRT, you will absolutely not live a long, healthy, vibrant life. And that made my blood boil. I have never taken HRT. I know we're all entirely different. I went through perimenopause early. I did have symptoms back in the day, but I didn't know back then what I know now. And when I started to make lifestyle changes, my symptoms either reduced, or if I was really ninja, they went completely. So I completely dispute that. Yes, okay, I'm still only 54. I've not got to age 80 or 90 or 100 yet. However, I have family members who are all active. They're elderly, they're 80s plus, and they are still probably doing more than most 30-year-olds do, chopping their own wood, splitting their own logs, tending their own very large garden. So don't tell me you cannot live a long, healthy, vibrant life if you don't take HRT. I think it's absolute baloney. And then what happens if you're not actually allowed to take HRT? What if you have either the BRCA gene? What if you have breast cancer history in your family? So we really do need to learn how to be our best advocate, equip ourselves with as much information as we can do reasonably without having to spend hours and hours surfing the internet. Plus, like I said earlier, you will find whichever camp you want to find the information from that feeds into your bias. And I don't mean bias in a negative way here. We all have, I think, a disposition to wanting to take it or not wanting to take it. I've never really wanted to take it, so that would be my bias. So I will find studies that corroborate what I think. And if you are absolutely set on taking HRT, you will find studies that corroborate what you want to see as well. So just be aware of that. You know, whether it's HRT, cold water plunging, fasting, keto, paleo, whatever it might be, you will find information that corroborates it one way or the other. And that's why really it's so important that you become your own best health advocate. Even if you have no real foundation in health or awareness, you're living in your body. So just start to listen to your body's signals. And I recommend this to everybody, but I would start to track what you eat and drink and how that makes you feel, how it might have an impact on your sleep, it might have an impact on your mood. And I would keep a tracker for sort of 2 to 4 weeks and see where that leads, because it will reveal a lot of information to you. Things particularly like hot flushes and mood swings, they are tightly related to what you've eaten or drunk or indeed not had to drink. So for instance, when I'm thirsty, even if I just think about being thirsty, it will trigger a hot flush. Not every day, but quite regularly. In fact, I'm thirsty right now and I can feel a hot flush coming on. You know, when you breastfeed and you start to think about breastfeeding and you can feel your milk coming down, it's very similar to that sensation. And it's a bit like thinking about a juicy lemon, you know, you can make your mouth water. So it's not just because I am postmenopausal, it's because that's the way our body works. And you might find that you have a really significant impact or relationship on what you eat or drink and hot flushes or hot flashes. For instance, artificial sweeteners, they give me immediate joint pain within seconds of touching them. And I accidentally ate a Smint a while back, and within seconds, my joints were so painful and I could not understand what it was. I'm very aware of what I eat. So I say, what have I eaten today? And I just thought, well, I've just had a Smint. Could that be it? So I don't eat artificial sweeteners at all. I do eat honey occasionally, and I have dates. And when I then repeated the Smint test about 2 weeks later or a few days later, immediately the same thing happened. So just become aware of what you are eating and drinking or not eating and drinking. For instance, if you're getting thirsty, is that triggering hot flushes? Obviously, increased caffeine is going to increase your risk of anxiety, especially if you're drinking caffeine later in the day. It might be having a negative impact on your sleep. I know sleep can be really hard through the menopause. Sleep was one of the things that impacted me the most. My night sweats used to be terrible. Hot flushes, hot flashes, they were just horrid. I developed this really sore mouth that nobody could understand why. My mouth looked really healthy, but inside it was just so painful for me. I did go through the sore joints section. I used to feel like the Tin Man with no oil. I overcame that by taking caffeine out of my diet and adding in vitamin E. I now drink caffeine and I don't take a vitamin E supplement, and somehow my joints are absolutely fine. And that was also while I was doing all my strength training and stretching and stuff. So, my body was active, but I was just getting this joint pain from nowhere in particular. And I just found by taking caffeine out for about 3 months, having a vitamin E supplement for 3 months made a massive, massive difference. And it sort of helped get me back on track. So just become aware of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And by keeping a tracker or just a journal or scrap of paper that you scribble things down on, it will make it much, much easier for you to find those patterns, because they will exist. Absolutely promise you. Also want to just comment that HRT is not a miracle cure. Even if you take it, you still have to make the lifestyle changes. HRT, in fact, they were talking about the reason I was so shocked, because she's a psychotherapist too. They were both saying how important HRT is if you're struggling with mood swings and low mood and depression in menopause. That is one of the few things you're going to find on Google and the scholarly peer-reviewed articles that suggest that now evidence points to the fact that HRT does not have a beneficial impact on depression and low mood and extreme anxiety through the menopause. And in fact, I'll link at the end of this and in the description box below, there's a video that goes into quite a lot of detail about the suicide risk and HRT or no HRT. So just be mindful of that. But they were both very much again about take HRT. It's gonna make you feel so much happier. It's proven not to. And how they can even be so black and white and blunt and ignorant about it just astounded me, and it riled me so much. So I sort of cleared the schedule for this week's Menopause Monday, and this is just something I really wanted to talk about, because it is so important that you do your own research as well, even though you will find what you're looking for. But just be mindful of some of these things, that lifestyle still is an absolute necessity, whether you take HRT or not. It's like Ozempic. A lot of people think Ozempic or the weight loss drug, whichever brand name you take or are thinking of taking, is a quick fix. It's not. Yes, it can significantly help you reduce weight fast, but a lot of that weight comes from your muscles. You need your muscles. A lot of it can come from your bone density. You need strong bones. Unless you are making the lifestyle changes too, so you're stopping eating all the rubbish, you are moving regularly, you are not going to get all the benefits from Ozempic like you think you might do. So it's not a cure-all, and it does come with side effects. And they actually, to their due, they did both mention about the fact that not everything is a cure-all, and there are side effects that you should research. And that was what they said, that you should research. They didn't even cover it. So I'm not pro or against. I chose not to take HRT. Personally, I would not touch the weight loss drug. Just my own thoughts on it. But you have to do your research, have a chat with people that you trust, maybe listen to both sides of the story. That's why I like listening to podcasts from people who are suggesting these things as well, because I think it's really important that you don't just blinker yourself to the one side of the fence that you feel happiest on. We do need to allow ourselves to hear both sides and then take as an educated guess or an educated assumption as we possibly can do, while looking at the intricacies of our own lives in detail and tracking your symptoms. Don't just think, oh, I'm just going to go and get HRT because I haven't got time to journal and track. Of course you need to make time to journal and track. It doesn't actually take that long. And you can probably find a free tracking app online somewhere as well. But do be your own best advocate, because the blanket approach and sort of burying your head in the sand might not be the right way for you. So the tips to build a healthy, vibrant, long life after menopause: avoid busy roads. No, but the things that you can control. So avoid eating too many of the ultra processed foods. Feed your body like a human. Eat a wide range of fruits and vegetables. If you can't afford the organic stuff, don't stress about it. Just wash it well when you get it home. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a great value. They take less time to cook if you have to cook them. And yeah, okay, you need a bit of freezer space, but I only have a little freezer and we managed to absolutely chock it full of all sorts of stuff. So maybe defrost it so it gives a bit more space and just get good at packing it well. But frozen fruits and vegetables are an absolute godsend if you can't buy from the farmers markets or from the organic aisle. And otherwise, if you do buy fresh fruits and vegetables, just give them a jolly good wash. One of the best things you can do to help get rid of the pesticides and the herbicides and stuff like that that might be sprayed onto the fruits and vegetables is put them in some water with some baking soda. I'm not entirely sure of I just literally scatter some baking soda into a bowl, leave it for 15 minutes, give them a bit of a rub, dry them off, and you're good to go. And that is a really good way, safe way of cleaning your fruits and vegetables easily without sort of leaving any yucky residues on them. Prioritize strength training over cardio if you do cardio right now. The long distance high extreme cardio is probably contributing to belly fat. It's also breaking down your muscle mass more than you need to, and replace that with strength training. If you do nothing and if you're entirely sedentary at the moment, start with regular walking, bring it up to brisk walking, and start to incorporate some kind of strength training, even if it's just like air squats, air lunges, lifting your arms up and down a few times. Little circles backwards and forwards, all sorts of stuff you can do without any weights, any equipment at all. You can do press ups on the wall. So I mean, I hate press ups. I think my anatomy is just not very well aligned for press ups. I can do them, but I really struggle. So you can literally lean against a wall and you just go in and you push yourself out. So there's no major pressure on your shoulders or anything. And when you feel, oh, I can do that really easily, move your feet away from the wall a bit further, make sure you haven't got slippy shoes or socks on, do it a bit more like that, and then you can go onto the floor and do it on your knees. Or you can be on the floor on your knees and then have your upper body, your arms on a sofa or something. So again, you don't have to go down so far. You can even use a resistance band over here or a big loop of rubber if you've got something like that to give you a little bit of extra support here, and it acts a bit like a bouncy aid. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with no equipment. They are zero impact and they're going to be really helpful for you. Hold the plank for a while. If you can only hold it for 5 seconds, go down onto your knees for 5 seconds, then back up for 5 seconds. Go down back to your knees for 5 or 10 seconds, then hold your plank for 5 seconds. And eventually you'll be able to hold it for longer and longer and longer. If you can't hold the plank because your wrists ache, go onto your forearms. Tuck your bum under, so your pubic bone you sort of tuck under. Call it ugly bum. So you don't want an arch up in your back. You want your bum, your pelvis sort of scooted down here, and hold your tummy. Hold your core really nice and tight while you do your plank. So there is no excuse for any of us. We should all be strength training because it prevents brittle bone disease. It boosts your metabolism, helps you build muscles. Muscles release myokines. Those are known as hope molecules. But essentially, strength training is going to improve your gut health. It improves your mental health. It improves your sense of self-esteem, your self-confidence. It helps hold you posturally correctly so you can digest better. You can breathe more effectively. So strength training is one of those things that, whether you like it or not, you really ought to be doing. Rethink intermittent fasting. If it's still working for you, continue it. If it's not, or you've never tried it, if you're post-menopause, I wouldn't bother trying it. I used to find intermittent fasting really successful. I actually love not eating first thing in the morning, and I've had to change that, and I still have to force myself to eat in the morning now. I'm just not a natural morning grazer or eater. During the latter years of my perimenopause, I was doing intermittent fasting and it worked really, really well. I did alternate between sort of the 6-18 window. So I'd eat during a 6-hour window and not eat through an 18-hour window. And then occasionally I'd do like 5 days of eating and then 2 days of pretty much starving or fasting with just a small light meal at the end of the day and lots of water. And both of those methods work really well. I found the 18-6 window easier to manage than the 2 days not eating. But as we get older, we need to up our protein. So that's my next point. But just while on intermittent fasting, because your body needs a woman's body. So your husband or your partner, if he's male, might be saying, oh, intermittent fasting is really, really good for you, and you should be doing this with your strength training. You should be including cardio. It's definitely important. That is for a man's body, not for a midlife woman's body. We are not just little men. We are completely different. What our needs are completely different, which is why we also need carbs. We need complex carbs. So before you do a workout or strength train, you should be eating protein and complex carbs. So my meal before I work out, for instance, is Greek yogurt. So I've got the protein. If it's low fat Greek yogurt, if I've bought that by mistake or they haven't got the full fat one in the shop, I'll drizzle some olive oil on top. Can't really taste it, but it's a healthy fat. Some oats, complex carbs, often some chia seeds or some flax seeds. So again, another sort of complex carbs and protein. And then berries on top of that. And that is like a really healthy, well balanced macro meal before I do my workout. It's not too heavy. And then after my workout, I will have either 1 or 2 eggs on a round of home baked sourdough bread, so really healthy sourdough bread, and a portion of either edamame beans or peas or green beans. I always add veggies to that as well. And then often nutritional yeast on top of that, and some range of herbs. I love herbs and spices and things. So and sometimes I'll have a quarter avocado on that toast as well. So, and sometimes I'll actually put cottage cheese on it as well. So it's a matter of trying to get as much protein in as you can. Your ideal protein is what your ideal body weight is. So if you want to weigh, say, 150 pounds, you want to be aiming to eat around about 150 grams of protein, and that's hard. I aim to eat 140 grams of protein every day, and I really have to be cognizant of getting it in somehow. If I've done a strength training workout, I always have my protein shake afterwards, and that's 24 grams of protein straight away. On days when I don't strength train, at the moment, I'm not having my protein shake and I'm struggling to get as much protein in as I should. So I'm actually going to start to have a protein drink or a shake or of some sorts each day, whether I strength train or not. I aim to get around about 40 to 50 grams of protein between those two breakfast meals, so the pre-workout and the post-workout meal. Because if I know I'm sort of 40 to 50 grams already, I've only got about another 90 to 100 grams to go. But it's hard to do. My evening meal's always a bit more easy. It's the bit in the middle that I struggle with because I rarely stop for lunch. And that is the one where I let myself down the most as far as protein goes. So be mindful, we need protein. Our bodies do not synthesize protein as well as they used to do. So as we get older, we lose that ability, plus the fact that we've got more cortisol in our bodies. So that's having that nibbling effect on our muscles, on our bones, on our skin, on our various tissues, connective tissues, etc., etc. So protein is absolutely vital if you want to live a healthy, happy, vibrant life beyond menopause. Sleep with discipline. And I know it's really easy. You get to the end of the day and you're absolutely exhausted. You feel vile and you can be barely bothered to go and wash up after dinner. And you're sitting on the settee, you're watching something on the telly, and it's just like, I can't eat. I'm so tired. I can't even be bothered to go to bed. And so you sit and wait and you zone out a bit longer and you watch maybe something on the news that pops up or whatever you might be. Oh, I just might watch another episode because I deserve it, because it's just been so stressful lately. I just want to sort of treat myself. But doing that is negatively impacting your sleep. And when you can get to bed, the hours before midnight definitely count for more than the hours after midnight, unless you're a shift worker, in which case you just have to go with what you've got. But just be mindful that being bossy with your sleep, yes, it can be a bit tedious and a bit boring, but it will have a profound impact on how well you sleep and how rested you feel when you wake up the next morning, which will also have an impact on your satiety hormones. So you'll feel fuller faster, you'll feel less hungry, you'll be making the healthy food choices, not the brain saying, I need the fast carbs because I didn't get enough sleep last night. Also reduces your risk of developing the Alzheimer plaques, because that's when the brain flushes itself. It's when the entire body rejuvenates itself. So just be really mindful about making sure that you're prioritizing sleep. Next is to get out into the sunlight as often as you can, or the ultraviolet light for a minimum. I mean, it's ridiculous that most people struggle to even get 20 minutes to 30 minutes of daylight on their skin every day. If you can get it earlier in the day, even better. Of course, during the winter months, that's a bit more of a challenge, but just do what you can. Because vitamin D that we get from ultraviolet light is it has a positive impact on literally every cell of our bodies. It will help you feel happier, helps with your feel-good hormones. It helps with your sleepy hormone. So that's one of the reasons you want to try and get out earlier in the day when the sunlight is up or when the daylight is up, is because that then sets your body clock so that as the end of the day approaches, you're secreting more melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone, and that's going to help you sleep better. If you don't get outside very much, take a vitamin D3 supplement and combine it with K2, because K2 helps the calcium in the body get directed to where it needs to go. So rather than ending up in like your arteries and your lungs, it goes to your bones, your teeth, where it needs to be. A lot of people take vitamin D as well as calcium. Often, if you're eating a well-rounded diet, you don't need calcium, which leads me on to my next point, is the fact that you will hear people say, check your magnesium levels, check your potassium levels, check this, that, and the other levels. You need this vitamin, you need that vitamin. B vitamins are great for your mental health. They are. They're for the nervous system regulation. Vitamin E really helps with joint pain. So do omega-3 fatty acids. But if we are eating a well-rounded amount of food that a human being would eat, so not the ultra-processed fast food, the chances are you're getting all these vitamins and minerals from the food that you're eating. So you don't really need a kitchen with all these various supplements loaded up on your countertop, apart from the fact a lot of them cost quite a bit of money, and some of them are not as effective as they say as necessarily they should be. So I would definitely focus more on feeding yourself with a wide range of fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins. The fiber is also good from the fruits and vegetables because it helps your gut health, which brings me on to the next point. Your gut health is crucial to everything, including your mental health. And there is that direct link between the gut and the brain. And if you're not looking after your gut health, and even if you take something like ibuprofen or you've taken antibiotics in the past, the chances are that you have not got the widest range of healthy bacteria that you ideally need in your gut. And in actual fact, as we're recording this, I am making my next batch of sauerkraut, and I'm just straining out my homemade apple cider vinegar, because they are obviously both fermented foods. I'm baking my sourdough bread as well, and I'm flavoring my kombucha. So over the years, I started with kombucha because it's a really refreshing drink. And then I started with the sourdough bread because my bread maker broke and you can't make sourdough in a bread maker. And I'd always wanted to try sourdough. So now I make my own sourdough. And then I moved on to sauerkraut, which actually homemade sauerkraut is lovely. The shop bought stuff I think is absolutely vile. But if you make it at home, it's really, really nice. And then I've recently started, I'm just making my first, or bottling my first batch of apple cider vinegar. They don't take that long to do, but the health benefits are absolutely massive because they're fermented foods, and that gives you a wide range of healthy bacteria in your gut, which will help give you energy. They help to regulate your hormones. They support your mental health. They sort of make you glow from the inside out. Plus, I mean, I think sauerkraut, it said, again, these are reports that I've read, and lots of people seem to be saying it, but one person out there, sort of a big voice, says something, and then everybody else jumps onto the bandwagon. But apparently, sauerkraut is one of the highest forms of vitamin C that you can get, as well as having the healthy bacteria in it. So, do consider adding fermented foods into your diet, as in the food and drink that you eat. Be mindful of the fact that not everybody benefits from HRT, and not everybody can take HRT, and not everybody wants to take HRT. I'm one of the healthiest, happiest people I know. My bones are really strong. My muscles are strong. I don't struggle with my mental health. Yes, I am a psychotherapist. I deal in or specialize in anxiety and grief. But the last 2 years for me, apart from the years of my divorce, have probably been the two most stressful years I've had in my life. So if you look after yourself, get exercise, do the right sort of things. I love red wine. I always have red wine in the evening. I normally have 1.5 to 2 glasses of red wine. So it's not about just getting rid of all of your things that you love. And sometimes I have a square of dark chocolate in the evening as well. It is 85% dark chocolate. It's not like your milk chocolate stuff. But you know, there are ways of still getting your treats, but in a healthy format. Dates, I always treat myself to some really good quality dates. They're like nature's candy. So if you like sweets or toffees, ditch the artificial yucky sweets and replace them with fruit or dates or apricots, dried apricots, things like that. They're really, really lovely. And your taste buds will soon adapt, but you'll be doing yourself such a huge favor for your healthy longevity beyond menopause. So no, you're not broken. You might just be struggling a bit. And no, you're not doomed if you can't take HRT. And no, you do not need to hand over your health to the loudest voice in the room. So if this resonates, let me know. Drop in the comments, what is something that you do that helps you manage the menopause, whether that's HRT or not. You know, what type of HRT are you on? That'd be really interesting to hear. I just think we have to be so careful not to have this very black and white attitude, because we're all unique. We all have different coping strategies. We all have different gut microbiomes. We all have different ways of looking at the world. We have our different lenses, and it's really important to respect that and to respect each other, regardless of what your choices might be. But just know that whichever camp you go into, you are still always going to benefit from lifestyle change to support your mental health and your physical health, so that you can get that long, healthy, happy, vibrant life beyond menopause without HRT, if that is your choice. So thank you for your company today, and I will look forward to chatting with you again next week.